After Cafe, where the essay thoughts find depth and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. She is the founder and strategic advisor, as well as an author and the author of the book Counter First Design, other than He's Sarah Johnson. Welcome,
Hi,
Miss.
thank you very much.
Yes, welcome, Miss Sarah on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I can?
Sure, I've been in the content design field for over 15 years, and I teach at the Bentley University User Experience Design Center. And I've been an author for a very long time. I've published, this is my sixth book, all in different genres. I've published literary criticism, novels, and now I'm into business books. Um, yeah, I'm a writer by trade and by desire.
And Miss Sarah, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you, and looking forward for more empowering books like this to come. So let's talk about your content first design. Let's start with a fundamental premise. In a world that often prioritizes aesthetics, what is the most compelling argument for putting a content at very beginning for the design process?
Sure. My premise is that a design, a user experience is a conversation with the user. And how can you have that conversation if you don't understand the user and speak their language? So, by studying content from a user perspective before design, can actually lead to more winning designs that reduce rework, save time, save money, and save a lot of headaches.
Yes, save a lot of headache. So, Miss Sarah, how do you define the content in the context of your book? Is it just text or it just encompasses something broader?
Well, that's an interesting question. It's really just text that you would see in a digital experience. So you would see content paragraphs that are scannable. You'd see bulleted lists. You'd see microcopy that is for buttons or tasks that you would have to carry out online. Words, any words that you see on the web experience or app experience.
And what is the most common misconception, Miss Sarah, about content first design that you find yourself having to correct?
Well, the most common misconception, Daniel, is that it's the sole responsibility of the content designer. And people in UX design and product often feel like their responsibilities have been usurped by content. And when really, the way that I present content first design is as a highly collaborative process in which content leads, but the other teams and stakeholders are involved and included from the very beginning because everybody's point of view is necessary in order to create a successful project.
A successful project indeed. And how does the content first approach fundamentally change the relationship between writers, designers, and developers on a project?
They are in the room together from the beginning. Like typically, a project kicks off with product and UX and developers, and content is brought in at the last minute or late when designs have already been made and has to sort of fill in the blanks. When content doesn't usurp other positions. It really is collaborative. And to get across that collaboration, you include all of the stakeholders and all of the tasks and research that you conduct in order to understand the content that's really going to work. For example, if you're doing user research, empathy mapping, you would include your UX designers, all the stakeholders that have relevant consistency and relevant, um, what's it called, weight in the game. But I think the biggest misconception is that content's going to take over and everyone else is going to become less important. They feel, that doesn't feel good to people. So
Hmm.
I think it's really important that it's collaborative. And I think that's what makes it more successful.
Yes, definitely. So, on the practical process and methodology, Miss Sarah, what does a content first workflow look like in your practice? Can you walk us through the initial steps a team should take before a single pixel is designed?
Sure. The first thing that happens, I use a double diamond approach. So the first half of the first diamond is to do the discovery work, whereby you have a project kickoff meeting and a content inventory and stakeholder interviews. And this is all intended to help you define the problem statement for the user and to understand what the pain points are. And you decide at that point what research content is going to conduct in order to better understand the user, like how they talk, how they think, what's meaningful to them, what do they need in order to get the information they're looking for or succeed at a task online. And then in the second part, we do that research, we gather results, we interpret results, we do
Interpret.
conversation mapping, empathy mapping before we get to working with UX design. Working with UX design takes off once we have like a clear outline of what that conversation with the user is going to look like.
Interesting, Miss Sarah. So, what are the essential tools or techniques you recommend for creating and structuring content prototype and that a design system can be built upon?
I would say the tools necessary are a really good team of people who collaborate well together. I think that, using Figma with designers is super helpful. And if you have a content design system for content itself, where you have componentized a lot of things such as buttons that say close or next or things that are used over and over again, that can be a huge asset to saving time and saving obviously money and work.
Yes, work for sure. And Miss Sarah, how do you handle situations where the final content is not ready? What is the best way to use provisional or lorem ipsum or example content without undermining the content first philosophy?
I think you should never use lorem ipsum. I'm very jaded because I believe in the content first, but I don't think you should ever use lorem ipsum because I don't think you can get to a design from there. I think you have to have at least some sort of a priority guide about the content before you put, pixel to screen, if you want to call it that. Yeah, I don't think lorem ipsum is a good idea. I think it's going to require more rework than it's worth. If you have even sketched out content, low
Mhm.
fidelity content in there, that's better than lorem ipsum, even if it has to be changed and reworked.
Mhm. So, Miss Sarah, how does the
Educating.
content first? Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, pardon me, I misunderstood what you said.
No worries. So, how does the content first approach influence decisions about information architecture and use or user flow differently than design led approach?
I think information architecture uses like a lot of taxonomy, and you need to understand the information, which is words and language. You need to understand how people are thinking about a task and what's actually meaningful to them, what words are going to be meaningful to them, and what tasks they're going to have to do, and have an information architecture that leads them through in a way that they can understand and makes them comfortable with the process and builds trust. And I think content first is the whole idea of organizing the information, which is the words, from the nav down to the page level, using the
Yeah.
tools of content first, which is heavily researched user experience.
Indeed. So, Ms. Sarah, on impact and outcomes, beyond just a better user experience, what are the tangible business benefits you've seen from teams and the adopt this methodology?
Sure, there's a lot less rework of designs at the end because content and design have been moving in unison, which saves time for the company and money. You know, the speed to market is completely different. You test a lot along the way, which also saves time and money and rework. And I think the biggest asset to Congress design is like the cooperation and collaboration that really leads to the biggest business benefits. You know, those relationships that you build with your stakeholders. And those relationships last over time, so the projects get better and better and better as you come to understand each other and what makes each other successful.
And Ms. Sarah, can you share a specific before and after story where switching to a content first approach rescued a project led to a dramatically better outcome?
Sure, we did. When I worked at a certain financial company, we had to do a rework of the entire website. And through the transactional phases of the website where people had to take out an IRA or add to an IRA or take out a required minimum distribution, people were just dropping off in droves. And we needed to rework the site so that people could comfortably carry out their tasks online because the call center was swamped and that's cost a fortune to the company. So what we did was tremendous amount of user research. We listened to calls on the content sent on the customer support line to understand like how people spoke about what was difficult, what their pain points were, and what they needed in order to feel comfortable dealing with their money online. Even people who are really computer savvy did not feel comfortable answering some questions that felt personal or taking money online or putting money in line. So we realized a lot of things through those conversations. And one of the biggest ones was that we needed to slow down the screens and we needed to explain why we were asking for certain information and how it would be used so that people felt comfortable and each screen gave them the space to think about each task, each step in the task. And we went from drop off rates of 72% down to 36% in like a few months, which saves, you know, millions of call center calls. And, you know, those numbers just improved as time went on. And that was
Interesting.
the, yeah.
And Miss Sarah, what is the impact on brands' voice and consistency when content leads the design rather than trying to fit into a predefined containers?
I love this question, Daniel, because it speaks to like where my thinking is right now. And when
Mm-hmm.
you consider content first, you have the opportunity to create clarity, to create brand trust, because you're creating consistency throughout an experience. You're not saying one thing, one word for X and a different word for X on the next screen. The consistency builds trust. The clarity builds trust, and the content throughout becomes almost invisible because it's like a conversation. It's what they're expecting or what they need.
And Miss Sarah, tell us on overcoming challenges and shifting mindset. What is the biggest obstacles or pushback you hear or you hear from designer or stakeholders when proposing this approach, and how do you overcome it?
Sure, it's not always easy to overcome. I think there's a couple aspects of that, Daniel, where I think first you have to prove it's going to work by taking a small project and carrying out the specific methodology to the end to show people that it works, that it saves time, saves money, faster speed to market, less reworks. That's the first part of it. The second part of it is to operationalize it and implement the process is change, and people don't like change. So they have to step outside their comfort zone. And then there's the money it takes to change a process, to make change in an organization. So there's that resistance, simply
Yes,
to change.
yes,
So there's
people.
a lot of moving parts and a lot to sort of overcome and advocate for.
Yes, people don't like change, so you need to adjust. So,
Yeah.
Miss Sarah, for the team that is deeply entranced in a design process, what is the smallest, less disruptive first step they can take toward a content first model?
Sure, they could take anything as simple as a screen with a transaction on it, where they have to get the person to hit the next button, and people are dropping off at that point. And to step back and really think about, what are the words on the page leading them through in a way that's meaningful to them? Are we really talking to the user, or are we using words we just like? Are we thinking like us, or are we thinking like the user? And by taking like a very small experience and working it with content first design, that's one way to convince people, hey, this works, this is interesting, we should try this again. So a lot of organizations do it in a step at a time phase. An organization I'm working with now is doing something interesting where they want to create a content first design system that incorporates their design, a content first design process that includes and incorporates their current design process. And they want their process to be more content first, but they don't want to chuck what they're doing and only do content first as I lay it out. So we're creating a new process that's content first within their paradigm. So it's a tricky wicket, but it's going really well and it's really fun and it's an interesting approach. And I'm not surprised that they asked for that approach. I thought, that would be something that would come up because it is a stepping stone toward complete content first design. And the thing is, you don't have to do it the way that I lay it out in the book. Content first design has been talked about for years. And, one of the things I advocate for is conversation around this topic. Like, how are you doing content first? How are you doing content first? What do you like? What do you hate? What are your challenges? What works? And I think for every organization, the solution to content first is going to be different.
Indeed, different to other people. And Miss Sarah, What are your short-term and long-term goals as an author?
As an author,
Yes, please.
yeah, I'm working on a book now called Meaning at Scale that's about creating brand consistency and trust. That's done and with my agent. And I'm also working on a novel that's about halfway done. And I hope to, keep writing books. I love writing. I like putting ideas together. I like the balance between a fictional, completely internal experience, and with the business books, the more practical experience. It's left brain, right brain. So I hope to pursue both avenues of expression and continue to grow as a content designer and learn more and more and more. Because it changes, the field changes like daily. And you really need to keep a growth mindset in order to learn and to move to the next level and evolve, especially with the implementation of AI. There's so much to learn and so many ways to grow.
Yes, indeed. You need to grow each day and learn something each day. So you need to read and
Yeah.
read and read, or listen to audiobooks, or listen
Listen
to
to
all.
Daniel's podcast.
Yes, listen to a podcast, just like my book 101 review. And thank you for that, goals, and looking forward for more success, Miss Sarah. And can you
Thank you
please,
very much.
and yes, can you give a piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Oh, wow. I don't know if they want to be like me. If they want to write a book, my recommendation for a business type book is to have an outline and have a team like of people that you can run stuff by. And I had a woman write a case study for my book, and she was a great partner and sort of being able to bounce ideas off of. Excuse me. She um she helped a lot. And if you're writing a novel, so much about writing a book is showing up, like sitting in the chair, sitting with the discomfort of not knowing, and doing it anyway. And it's that practice, even if you say, I'm going to sit there 20 minutes a day, whether words come or not, that will get you there for fiction and nonfiction.
And thank you for that advice, Miss Sarah. Thank you, thank you. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Pardon me?
Can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Sure. Novels by Louise Erdrich and the Content First Design XML Press books have influenced my journey, and all of the books by A Book Apart and Rosenfeld, all the industry content books. There are many, many of them, and they've educated and influenced me quite a bit. And I think that keeping up with what's going on in the industry and hearing different people's perspectives really can help you shape your own thinking.
Shape your own thinking, indeed. And thank you for that recommended book, Miss Sarah. And tell us, what did writing this book teach you about your own process? What was there a concept that satisfied or solidified or evolved for you during the writing?
One of the most important things I realized in writing the book was that it takes a village to write a book, and having a team, having an editor, having someone who wrote the case study, someone having done illustrations. We all being able to bounce ideas off people and balance that. In terms of design, I don't it was all in my head because I'd been teaching it. I think what I learned about writing a book is that it's never going to be what you think it's going to be when you start. It's going to evolve and grow, and it's going to teach you who it is and what it is. And, that's true for my fiction too. And I think that's an important thing to remember, to not try and force your preconceived idea of what it's going to be, and let it take shape, let it speak for itself.
Well, thank you for that empowering answer, Miss Sarah. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101, love letters, movie 101, music 101 are for season, science 101 in second season, and Bible verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast.
You
Yes, so Miss
you
Sarah,
do great.
tell
You're
us.
super.
Thank you. So ultimately, Miss Sarah, why is treating content as a primary design material rather than the final layer?
I think it takes, the final layer is the conjunction of content design based on research and insights from metrics and collaboration from other teams.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Sarah. And can you please invite our listeners to support your books, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Absolutely. This content first design book would be great.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Sarah. And if you support her for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Miss Sarah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
More people,
Thoroughly
see.
enjoyed it.
Yes, likewise. More people, see you soon.